Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's in-depth ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I've had some time here throughout the day today and actually over the weekend to kind of just take a close look at the new long-range forecast data that came out. And I want to share with you my latest thoughts on this. So you've been looking at a map here that goes from December 20th through January 20th. This is the near-term part of the long-range forecast. And there's a couple of unique things that I'm starting to see in this forecast map. First of all, let's start in the west. Do you notice how it is on the east-facing slopes right through here in the Cascades? And on this side of the Sierra Nevada that the model is putting in the highest precipitation anomalies, not along the peaks of the Cascades or the western side of it, or the same thing with Sierra Nevada. This would indicate that at some point we're going to get some flow that's going to kind of come in, possibly doing something like this at times. And it appears, according to the models, that those systems, those deeper troughs that will show up like this, will then eject into the plains and form here in parts of the Mid-South, Tennessee and Ohio Valley, and kind of move into the Northeast as deepening low-pressure systems, also moving into the Great Lakes. It's a very unique look at the pattern, and the reason why I say that it's unique is that when I've been assessing where the coldest air is, and we've been noticing throughout the month of November now to December what the jet stream's done across the Pacific, it has been at times quite zonal, trapping the cold air over Alaska and then bringing in the incredible onshore flow to the parts of the Pacific Northwest, but really into British Columbia, which has had such extensive disaster with respect to weather. So I see this and I start to look at how this pattern could evolve. So I'm going to have to watch much of the Great Basin, the Rocky Mountains, carefully to see if we do develop low pressure there. Okay, lower heights as well, and systems to eject in through here. But this is the latest I've got. It appears that the second half of December through most of January is going to be very active in these two corridors. My concerns are here, where it's been dry in the southern and high plains, across pockets in the south and southeast where it's been dry as well. But this could mean much better precipitation for California. What are those temperatures going to do? Let's just do a same kind of 30-day analysis. There it is, December 20th through January 20th. We do see at times we're going to favor some sort of a southeastern ridge, but it appears that we're going to let quite a bit of colder air get into the western part of the United States and the Canadian Prairie, and it's going to be anchored, seems to be anchored in British Columbia extending to Alaska. So while it has been an extremely mild start to December, there are some lead indicators that we're really going to start to see some shifts in this. Now again, if we come back to that precipitation pattern, are there other models that are echoing that same idea? So I'm going to show you the CFSV2 again. And you notice that during this time period, we go over to a drier pattern here, but then there just seems to be better flow coming through. Even though there's no strong subtropical jet stream, we just seem to see just above average precipitation. And that's the week of Christmas there. And then to finish the year, again, California into the Intermountain West, and then still into this area, the CFSV2 has some sort of semblance of continuity with what the European model is saying. Now, the European model on the 5th released the new long-range data, and this is what it shows for January, February, into March. And this is this is La Nina to the T. Above average precipitation here in the Pacific Northwest into much of the Canadian Prairie. We tend to be drier from California into the high plains and the southern plains, and an active corridor right in through here that tends to extend into the northeast. So if there's a drier region, it's to the south. That's also where it tends to be warmer than average as well. And you can see here those seasonal temperature patterns. I'm just going to make this comment. I could buy into the above average temperature being favored into this area, but I think this is still biased way too warm in the longer term. I believe that we're going to be seeing more frequent cold air intrusions coming through the Canadian Prairie that at times could send that cold air clear to the Gulf of Mexico. So I think this map would appear to be too warm. And I'm going to share with you why I think that in the long range here. A lot of it has to do with what's going on with La Nina. So our current La Nina, I believe, is reaching a peak right now. We're seeing the farthest eastward extent of the cold air, telling us that the trade winds are probably right now reaching their strongest. We've seen quite a bit of colder air that's emerged here on this part of near the Pacific Ocean near South America. And this can't be ignored either, this region right in through here of colder water. Now at the very end of this video, I'm going to give you an analog to what I think spring of 2022 into summer of 2022 is going to look like. But it's going to be dealing a lot with the change in this La Nina pattern. And this is what I'm talking about. You see, I went back and I looked over November and December at all of the time when the MJO and what phase it was in when there was a La Nina. So I looked at all the La Nina years and where the MJO spent November, December. And this is making a lot of sense. 5, 6, and 7 were the preferred phases. And we have been seeing that a lot lately, right? We've seen the MJO in those phases a lot over the last several weeks. And that would make sense because that's where the nose of the trade winds pushes through here. And then we have the westerly winds kind of coming out of the Indian Ocean, and the rising motion is right in through here. That's MJO 5, 6, and 7. We even see that now. We could look at the upper level velocity potentials, but let's just look down at the surface here at the winds. Remember, we're finding where those reds meet the blues and greens, and we just continue to see that line that I drew, where they meet, there's the easterlies coming from this direction and the westerlies from that. That sits right in this vicinity, phases 6 and phase 7. Now, the moment the La Nina begins to weaken, what we expect is the blues and greens to shift back this way, the MJO to go with it, and then go on a reset and come back over to the Indian Ocean. Now, that's key. When's that going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Despite me saying that the La Nina is peaking, ocean temperatures, well, the thermal inertial of water is 5 times that of land, which means when it reaches this cold peak, it's going to stick around. And I think that the trade winds will continue to behave in a similar way for a while. So, long story short, the new European weeklies keep the MJO in phase 6 and phase 7 all the way through the end of December. Don't let it out over into phase 8 or over into phase 1, 2, which would be a reset into the Indian Ocean. We may not see that until we get into January. Now, what's the consequence of that? Well, we can use this great table of the correlations between La Nina and El Nino to pull out these analog years, and that's what I did. So in December, if we spend some time in phase 7, extended Pacific jet targets the west. Okay, I like it. Above average precipitation, we saw that. Southeastern ridge, which means the flow comes around and cuts right through the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. That makes sense with this, initial long-range forecast of wetter here and wetter there. See that? I can make sense of that. But if we end up transitioning from this phase 7 in December over to a different phase, because once we get past, into January, February, and March, if we start to let the La Nina fade, it'll go from phase 7 and start to reset. Where? To possibly even over to phase 2. Now, what does that mean? Well, if we start off January in phase 7, we got to watch out for the position of this ridge. Now, watch this. If that ridge is in place at the end of December, the flow comes in and around like that. Now, this makes sense to me because that could push the flow against the east-facing slopes of the mountains, but be drier along the coast. And do you remember how we saw that? We saw that happening here. So I think I can understand that, but how quickly do we get out of phase 7 and reset to the Indian Ocean? Because if it resets to the Indian Ocean, we get this, possibly getting over there into phase 2. That ridge slides here south of the Aleutian Islands, and then the flow just comes cranking across the United States, which gives us a very, very active winter time period from west coast to east coast. The only places that I see drier than average are going to be, along the Gulf Coast. So things are making sense, but I'm going to be honest with you. I do at times feel as though I'm trying to make them make sense in my head, and that can be a tricky thing when we do our weather forecasting. But that's the latest I've got for you on the long range. Before I do finish this video, though, at the very end, I'm going to talk to you about maybe an analog for 2022. All right, where are we right now? Just want to let you know, I'll just zoom in here. Polar vortex, it's actually over Siberia and very strong. Remember, the stronger these winds and the more they kind of circulate in a donut format like that means that the polar vortex is strong and unperturbed, undisturbed. And in fact, the fact that it's moved here even has a bit of a teleconnection with it being a bit more mild for North America. And the strength of the polar vortex, remember when we look at these graphics, this is the average with time. Stronger values are here, weaker values are there. Now, when the polar vortex becomes disrupted, it's weaker. It's not right now. The value you can see in the color shading right here is sitting at this point, which means we'll have to wait through the month of December, possibly into January, if there's going to be a polar vortex disruption. So I just want to bring that to your attention. All right, some near-term stuff. Today's winds were very strong across parts of the Midwest. You can see the position of the front by midday. It was right in through here. We had strong north and northwest winds behind us, especially around the Great Lakes. And the low pressure center that you see right here was the one that kind of barreled along the U.S.-Canada border, giving us those winter storm warnings we saw over the weekend. Total precipitation, let me zoom back out so you can see it. There you go. Last 72 hours, all of this up here was snow, okay? But we did get some rain in through here, including some heavy rain and some big storms this morning that did extend today down into parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and getting into parts of Louisiana. So that's how much rain we got here just in the last day or so, but this is a 72-hour map. I was watching the satellite imagery today to see if I could see that snow cover, and you can see it, right? So I'll just take you back to sunrise. And there's a bit of a clear patch in here, and you can see the white that's covering most of North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. You'll see Wisconsin kind of come out of the clouds there. And that's where our snowpack just built in. So it came out of Montana and then moved into North South Dakota there. And if we just look, this is our total snowfall over the last 72 hours. So there are pockets in here that picked up between 6 and 12 inches of snow. And we're going to get some lake effect on the back side of this system as the winds come screaming across the lakes here in the very near term. Now, our big picture over the next 10 days, the jet stream is going to start to maneuver itself farther to the south, and the flow is going to come into the west like this. So this is the near term. This is what we're dealing with. We're going to get a system to eject and come out here, and the low pressure track is going to take it over the Great Lakes. But this region in through here, okay, does not interact with this low quick enough. In other words, the moisture is not there to return to this very dry pocket in this part of the country. But this area over here, we are expecting above average precipitation from the front swiping through right now, late in the afternoon on Monday when I'm recording, and more precipitation on the way. And I want to talk about both of those events. So to do that, I really like showing you this multi-model approach. And what you've got here is the GFS on the left and the European on the right. So this is the snowstorm that went through the northern plains, and that was the front where we saw it midday today. And by this evening, it's already clearing the coast. All right, so system number one is out. Light snow showers possible here in the central part of the United States, and kind of overall throughout the west we have just scattered precipitation, but no deep organized lows. So I'm pulling you through Wednesday, and as we get out here toward late in the Wednesday, there is a short wave coming through the flow that's going to come into the northeast, so we could get some snow in the interior and rain along the coast. The GFS is the most aggressive on the snow with this at this point. You can see the European much different. So I'm talking about Virginia, Maryland, the DC area. That's going to be a very tricky forecast for midday on Wednesday. But then what we've got after that is there's a clipper that runs through the Canadian Prairie here. It's in both models. But this is the low that I want you to watch. It's snuck in here like this. And now it's getting met up with flow coming in like that, which means we're going to eject a system out of this part of Colorado. Ready? So on Thursday night, there it is. This is Friday morning, moving through Friday midday, Friday evening. And to be honest, this is our typical thing. The GFS takes it to Wisconsin faster than the European, which has it here sitting right on kind of the Quad Cities area. Both models, you'll see in a few moments, are putting some snow on the backside, and we've had multiple model runs showing this. I am concerned about the risk for severe storms in through this area as well, because the system is going to be strongly forced, and we build in a pretty decent warm sector with quite a bit of unstable air. So I'm talking about Friday into Saturday, and then Saturday afternoon and evening. I mean, you can see it right in through here. That's where the models are putting this in Saturday. That's the day I'm going to be watching it. But Friday into Saturday is the key time period. Now, you see the next system coming in like this. All right, that's this weekend. But then that system, the first one's going to exit. See it here? And before I tell you more about this one, just remember the GFS more aggressive on the cold, big snows on the backside, not seen in the European. That's a major difference for next Saturday night to Sunday morning. We'll have more on this on Thursday when I get a chance to analyze it again for you. But that next system coming into the west, it digs down deep, and look, both models really pushing the moisture through California. And that's been a signal we've been watching now for about 10 to 12 days that this particular event was going to really increase the precipitation there. But along the East Coast, the models have fallen apart. They still agree on that feature, but the GFS plants a big area of high pressure here, and guess what the European does? Cuts off a low in the same area. So we've really lost our continuity up to this point. So let's just go see what we've got here over the next week. So I'm going to use, there we go, the European model, next 7 days of total precip. Now let's just watch it all come through. There's the first front right there that comes through this week, and I'm already out to Thursday now. That next low, watch it right here, is going to emerge and spread snow on the north side, possibly strong to severe thunderstorms in through this area. And then we pull that on through into early next week. And let's just stop it. I'm going to stop it here 1 week out. So there's going to be places in the Tennessee Valley to the lower Mississippi River Valley into the southeast that could grab 1 to 2 inches of precip. We increase the chances in the west coast as well as the flow finally dips down here and gets into California. And again, this is all snow. You see where we're dry. Does the GFS say the same thing? Yeah, pretty darn close overall. I mean, the pattern is similar. I can't argue with that. The models are decently aligned, but there's always differences. And remember, when I show you these maps, these colors represent wetter than average, wetter conditions in the ECMWF. These would be wetter conditions in the GFS. So the GFS very aggressive with that second system here, while the European more broadly wet across much of the United States. Now let's go take a look at the snow on this. So I'll blow this up for you. There you go. The European, watch the snow swath come in here. So we got lake effect this week, right? And then what you're going to see is that system that comes out on Friday into Saturday. This is the latest swath right in through here where the Europeans put down that snow. So that clips a big part of Nebraska in around Sioux Falls, western Iowa, southern Minnesota into Wisconsin. So if I just let this play on out, let's just take it out 1 week. Heavy snow into this area, possible. We're going to watch it all week, but better than 3 inches is a real deal. But look at how much is coming into the Cascades in the Northern Rockies. And this is what the GFS suggests. A little bit farther to the north on the snow track, but similar. But as you saw, look at how much more snow from that second system the GFS pulls into the northeast. I'm going to be honest, I got to call that into question. And until I get multi-model agreement on this, I'm not going to buy into a single solution from the GFS model. I'm just not going to buy into that. In fact, let's just do this. Let's just look at something different here with this. I'll come back to this map right here in a second, but just to put some, let's do this somewhere else. One of my favorite sites is weathermodels.com, and one of the great things you can do is you can come in here and you can look at the European ensemble. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose the United States. I'm also going to come down and say, what's the probability of getting at least 3 inches of snow? That's what we're going to look at from the 12Z. So here we go. I buy into this pattern more than anything else. So over the next week, you can see that this is the area we're going to watch for better than a 50% chance of getting at least 3 inches of snow. But you can see that the European ensemble has not bought in to what the GFS is attempting to do here with snow along the East Coast. That's what I wanted to show you. Now, where does the pattern go? Well, this makes sense with what I've seen with the MJO. See that southeastern ridge developing? Deep trough in the west, we're going to get flow that does that. And that's just going to push systems into the west. They're going to come through the Midwest and eject into the Northeast. So the net effect of that is wet here, but systems will come out. This is too dry. Okay, I think the models are too dry here. Same for the Northeast. Because if systems roll through this area, they bring fronts through, and I imagine we're actually going to see that trend wetter as we get fully into the third week of the month of December. So let's go from there and have a quick look at what the GFS says for week 2. And again, above average for California, that's that stronger onshore flow. But see that corridor? It's showing up a little bit better there in the GFS compared to what the European was just showing. Okay, temperatures. We've already seen these highs today. Very, very cold. In fact, we had wind chill advisories out here, parts of the northern plains. Well, the temperature pattern is going to fluctuate a lot. Tuesday, the cold air cuts east, gets over to the east coast, and watch the warm-up already begin in the midsection of the country. That's ahead of the next system that emerges here on Friday. So where do we get these temperatures by Friday? Big warm sector. This is going to open up the unstable air into this area that I'm concerned about on Friday into Saturday. Remember that corridor? But then you're going to see that from Friday into Saturday, the cold air is coming in behind that. And then getting into Sunday, well, the pattern fluctuates again. It's going to continue to do that. In fact, we're watching out here day 5 through 10. So that would be this Friday through next Wednesday. We're going to watch once again possibly a big ridge open up in the midsection of the country and very mild air coming this place. So if you get some snow, it's going to melt and get right back into the soil into this area very quickly. We're likely going to melt the snow that just fell in the northern plains as well. But you see all this? That is coming out. And I think by the third week of this month, we're going to see better chances of getting cold air intrusions, especially if the MJO does get to phase 7 and sticks around there. That's what we saw, right? We could get that stronger flow off the Pacific, letting that come through. Does it get to the Gulf Coast and stay, to the southeast and stay? No, I don't think it does. But better chances of bringing that cold air in as we approach Christmas, all right? We're going to finish up with one other thing. The newest update from the European model long range peaks the La Nina about here, which we expect December, January, and sends it back to neutral territory by May. Now, what I'll be watching for when we get out there is this. Are you ready? December's ocean temperature anomalies into January. See how they weaken there? December to January. As we go into February, March, April, and May, I see warm water emerging here, the cool water shrinking to the south, but cold water staying there. And that continues out into June. Now, my concern about this is, what have we seen in the recent past where the ocean temperatures have done this? And my analog years couldn't be more opposite. I've looked at and seen that the transition out of winter of 17 into spring and summer of 18 followed this, but so did the winter of 2011 into 2012. And I know that saying those years can really evoke a lot of strong emotion. But if the models have this right, with an emerging El Nino, it will be absolutely critical to see if the summer ridge sets up here or if it sets up there. That was the difference between 17, which was here, 2018, which was there, and 2012, where it was here. So I would tell you that any long-range forecast made on this evolving El Nino is going to be garbage until we see the rest of the ocean temperature pattern set up. And that's where I wanted to finish today. Appreciate your attention. I'll talk to you again very soon on Thursday. Thank you.